I want you to just try and picture something for a second. Picture yourself sitting in your living room, just living your normal life.
Right.
You're, I don't know, cooking dinner, maybe you're arguing with your partner, just navigating the mundane, everyday friction of existence.
Yeah, the usual stuff.
Exactly. But imagine the walls of your house are made entirely of glass, and standing out there on your lawn are 20, maybe 30,000 total strangers.
That is a terrifying image.
Right. And they aren't just watching you like you're some passive television show. Every single one of them is holding a megaphone. And they are screaming instructions at you.
Oh, wow.
They're telling you who to be mad at. They're literally throwing money through the window when you yell at your partner. And then they boo you when you try to de-escalate things.
It's just a constant barrage.
It is. And I really want you to imagine the psychological toll of realizing that your income, your social status, your very reality is entirely dependent on keeping that massive mob on the lawn entertained.
Well, I mean, it fundamentally rewrites your brain's reward system. When you live in that kind of hyper-exposed environment, the line between your authentic self and the avatar you play for the crowd, it doesn't just blur, it completely dissolves.
Yeah.
You basically stop making decisions based on what is actually good for your life, and you start making decisions based on what will spike the engagement metrics.
And that terrifying glasshouse scenario is exactly where we are setting up camp today.
It's going to be a wild one.
It really is. We are looking at this absolutely gripping piece of journalism by a reporter named Twanna Y'vette. She hosts a podcast called Couch Commentary.
Right, couch commentary.
Yeah, and she has spent a really significant amount of time doing this deep, granular reporting on a wildly complex family dynamic. And it's all unfolding on this live streaming app called BIGO Live.
It's fascinating stuff.
I have to say, looking through her notes and her audio logs for this deep dive, this is some of the most fascinating cultural anthropology I have seen in a really long time.
Oh, it truly is. I mean, Twanna is documenting a story about a very high-profile trans couple on the app, Madam Lo and Hollywood Brion, who recently had a baby together.
Right.
But what Twanna does so brilliantly here is that she refuses to just stop at the surface-level internet drama, you know?
Yeah, she goes way deeper.
She does. She uses this couple as almost like a stress test for some of the most vital questions of our digital age.
She's essentially asking, like, what happens when the deeply private, messy, biological reality of bringing a human life into the world collides with an ecosystem built on relentless, monetized public spectacle?
Exactly.
So we're going to dig into this really bizarre silence surrounding the pregnancy. I mean, a literal absence of content from people who film absolutely everything.
Which is so strange.
It's bonkers. We also have to look at a genuinely terrifying physical siege involving an angry ex, a can of bear mace, and an audience actively cheering for blood.
Yeah, that part is heavy.
And we are going to analyze why the architecture of modern social media makes certain rumors literally unkillable.
Unkillable by design. And we also really have to dive into the uncomfortable questions that the internet mob actively ignores, right?
Real world stuff.
Yeah, questions about documented histories of addiction, physical violence, and the brutal reality of what it actually takes to be a parent when the cameras are rolling at 3 in the morning.
But the thing that really hooked me, the layer of Twanna's journalism that I just keep turning over in my head, is her own internal intellectual wrestling match.
She's so honest about it.
She really is completely transparent about the severe friction between her own very strict traditional religious beliefs regarding gender and the overwhelming, undeniable empathy she experienced watching this family face actual cruelty.
It's a masterclass in holding two opposing truths in your head at the same time.
It absolutely is. But I feel like before we can even touch the mystery of this baby, we've absolutely got to define the arena. Because if you don't understand where this is happening, none of the decisions these people make will compute.
The arena is BIGO Live, and Twanna paints a very vivid, very specific picture of what this platform actually is.
So it's not just another TikTok.
No, not at all. You have to understand that BIGO operates on a completely different psychological wavelength than something like Instagram or Facebook.
How so?
Well, it's not an asynchronous platform where you post a highly polished photo and just walk away, right? It is a synchronous, live, constant stream of consciousness. It's part social network, sure, but it is heavily skewed toward relentless, real-time reality television.
I was reading through Twanna's descriptions, and it honestly sounds less like a social network and more like a digital coliseum.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
It's a place where the audience doesn't just give a passive thumbs up, you
Yeah.
know? They are constantly throwing weapons into the arena. They're financially incentivizing conflict.
Yeah, people build entire kingdoms there. They build careers. They build these intricate, multi-layered feuds, and they build families in the glow of thousands of smartphones.
And ruling over a significant portion of that coliseum is Madame Lo. According to Twanna's very detailed background reporting, Lo is a trans woman who hosts a wildly popular broadcast on the app called How Low Can You Go? And that's spelled L-O, short for Lauren.
Right. And she doesn't just hop on and casually chat. She operates under these massive, highly theatrical personas.
Oh yeah, like houses are on.
Exactly, Hasselhoff or Madame Cloncodon. It feels very rooted in ballroom culture, where the persona is larger than life, completely untouchable, and highly curated.
Now, Twanna notes specifically that Lo presents and lives her daily life as a woman.
Yes, she does.
She points out that Lo has not had bottom surgery, but she really emphasizes that in the context of the BIGO ecosystem, Lo is the undisputed hostess.
She is the conductor of the orchestra.
Absolutely. She dictates the flow of the drama. She decides the hierarchy of the guests, the tone of the broadcast. She is just a formidable presence.
And then, entering that orbit, you have her boyfriend, Hollywood Brion. Now, Twanna's reporting details that Breon is a trans man. He has had top surgery, resulting in a flat chest, but has not had bottom surgery. He presents as a man, he lives his life as a man, and he's a known, distinct entity on BIGO Live, completely independent of Lo.
So together, they really form this digital power couple.
They do.
And recently, this power couple did something that fundamentally alters the trajectory of literally any relationship.
They had a baby.
They had a baby. Which brings us to the actual biological mechanics of this BIGO Live baby.
Right. And this is a layer that Twanna unpacks with a lot of practical detail, which was actually confirmed by another prominent trans woman on Lo's network named Katara Mitchell.
Yeah, because in an environment where everything is heavily scrutinized, the physical reality of how this child came into the world just becomes immediate fodder for the audience.
It does. Everything is content.
Biologically speaking, based on Twanna's reporting of the situation, Lo is the biological father of the child. And Breon, having a functioning uterus and ovaries, conceived, carried, and delivered the baby via natural birth.
And Twanna also points out the immediate logistical reality of their physical transitions here. Because Breon has had top surgery and the associated removal of breast tissue, he cannot lactate.
Right.
And Lo, as a trans woman, cannot lactate either. Therefore, the baby is formula fed.
I just want to stop for a second and really think about the sheer vulnerability of that. I am struggling to find an adequate comparison.
It's incredibly exposed.
It's like they have painstakingly built this incredibly unique, highly non-traditional family structure, navigating very complex physical and emotional realities, right?
Yeah.
But they've chosen to build the foundation of that house on a public stage where the audience feels like they literally bought a ticket to the construction process.
That's exactly it.
The viewers feel entirely entitled to debate their biology, their child-rearing methods, their literal genetic material.
The psychology of the audience in this space is just fascinating and frankly horrifying. When you consume someone's life through a screen for hours a day, the barrier of basic human decency evaporates.
It totally vanishes.
It does. The deeply personal realities of conception, of the physical toll of carrying a child, of the intimate decisions around feeding a newborn, things that most couples guard fiercely, are immediately thrust into a live streaming meat grinder.
Meat grinder is right.
The audience assumes ownership, and that assumed ownership sets the stage for the intense, crushing pressure this couple faces.
Which makes the central mystery of Twanna's reporting so baffling to me.
Yeah.
Because knowing all of that, knowing that Lo and Breon document their lives, their fights, their daily routines, their breakups, and their makeup sessions for this massive, hungry audience, we have to look at the massive gaping void in their content.
The dog that didn't bark.
Exactly. Let's talk about the missing vlog.
It is the ultimate paradox of the modern content creator, isn't it?
I am genuinely obsessed with Twanna's observation here. She points out the deafening, unnatural silence surrounding this pregnancy.
It's so loud, the silence.
It really is. Think about anyone you know who makes their living on the internet. If they buy a new couch, it's a 3-part unboxing series.
Oh, absolutely. If they get a puppy, it's monetized across 4 different platforms.
But here, nothing. There were 0 sonogram pictures leaked to the feed. There was no elaborately staged pregnancy announcement.
No cute photo shoots.
Nothing.
Oh.
There was no live-streamed baby shower with a Cash App link pinned to the top of the chat, which is standard practice. There were no weekly vlogs talking about morning sickness or nursery setups.
And Twanna approaches this from a brilliant, almost cynical internet business perspective. She analyzes the sheer monetary value of what they withheld.
It's huge, right?
Oh, it's astronomical. From an algorithmic standpoint, a trans woman and a trans man navigating a pregnancy together, carrying the child themselves, is the holy grail of modern content.
Media executives would trip over themselves for the rights to that.
Twanna notes that Netflix would option it as a limited docuseries in a heartbeat. The YouTube algorithm would aggressively push a vlog series to millions of unique viewers outside of their standard Bijou audience.
Yeah.
A documentary crew would kill for the kind of raw, intimate access that a self-filmed vlog provides. I mean, this is a story that practically edits itself into a viral sensation.
It represents potentially life-changing generational wealth through sponsorships, ad revenue, and just sheer audience growth.
And they walked away from all of it.
I have to admit, I have a really hard time wrapping my head around this part. Because if your entire livelihood, your whole identity, is built around creating content, why on earth do you hide the biggest, most life-altering event of your existence?
Right. What's the motivation?
Is it a sudden, profound realization that some things just need to be sacred? Or is it pure, unadulterated terror of the monster they've built in their audience?
Twanna really wrestles with both of those theories. Let's look at the sacred theory first, because there is a very humanizing idea here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Perhaps, when faced with the overwhelming reality of a tiny, fragile human life, Lo and Brion experienced a sudden, powerful urge to protect it. That they looked at the digital world they inhabit and decided that this one thing, this child, needed to remain unmonetized, pure, and basically untouched by the comment section.
I want to believe that.
Yeah.
I really, really do. It's a beautiful thought that parental instinct just overrode the algorithm. But I struggle to buy it entirely. When your currency is drama, when you have previously monetized your own trauma and interpersonal conflicts, suddenly drawing a hard line at a pregnancy feels out of character.
I see your scene.
I almost wonder if the silence wasn't about sacredness at all, but a calculated tactical move. You know, a way to drum up a massive boiling mystery that they can just cash in on later.
That is the cynical view, for sure. But Twanna actually leans heavily into a different interpretation, which is the protective measure born of genuine fear.
Oh, interesting.
She theorizes that Lo and Brion know exactly how messy, how toxic, and how physically dangerous the BIGO live audience can actually be. They know that the platform's algorithm financially rewards conflict and cruelty.
Because they've seen it firsthand.
Exactly. So hiding the pregnancy wasn't about keeping it sacred in a spiritual sense. It was a desperate tactical maneuver to shield a highly vulnerable pregnant Brion from a digital mob that would gladly stress him out just for entertainment.
And unfortunately, as Twanna's reporting goes on to show, that fear was not just paranoia, it was deeply, terrifyingly justified.
Yeah, this is where things take a really dark turn.
It forces us to look at the night the digital coliseum violently crashed into their physical reality. We need to talk about the incident with Coco.
To understand the sheer panic of this incident, we have to understand the antagonist. According to Twanna's detailed reporting, Coco is a trans woman who presents socially as a woman. Though Twanna notes specifically that she has not undergone medical transition or hormone therapy. But the absolute most crucial piece of context here, the thing that makes this entire situation so absurd, is her connection to the couple.
Yeah, tell them who she is.
Coco is Breon's ex-girlfriend.
And let's be super clear about the timeline here, because Twanna emphasizes this over and over. They only dated for a few weeks.
A few weeks?
We're not talking about a decade-long, deeply intertwined romance with shared assets and unresolved lifelong trauma. It was a brief, fleeting fling. But in the hyperinflated, drama-starved ecosystem of BIGO Live, that brief connection was enough to turn her into the focal point of a massive, real-world siege.
Twanna's breakdown of the event is chilling. Coco didn't just hop on a live stream to talk trash from her bedroom. She got into her car and she drove across state lines.
Just unhinged.
She drove all the way to New York City, specifically hunting down Brion's apartment, knowing that both Brion and Lo were inside. And when she got to the hallway, she didn't just knock and leave when no one answered. She banged on that door relentlessly for hours.
I want you, the listener, to try and imagine the psychological terror of that. You are in your home. your supposed safe space. Someone who hates you is on the other side of a thin piece of wood, screaming and hammering on the frame.
For hours.
And the police aren't coming, or at least they aren't stopping it. But the most horrifying part of Twanna's reporting isn't just the physical reality of Coco at the door, it's the digital reality of what was happening simultaneously. Because Coco was broadcasting the entire siege live.
This is where we see the true mechanics of parasocial pathology. The BIGO live chat functioned as a collective cheering mob.
They loved it.
They did. They were not passive observers watching a true crime event unfold. They were the directors. Twanna notes the chat was actively egging Coco on. They were typing commands like, "Don't leave until you fight her," and "Go in there. Drag her out."
Why does an audience do that? I really have to ask, what happens to the human brain when you put a screen between an action and a consequence?
It disconnects the empathy.
Because I guarantee you, if any of those commenters were standing in that physical hallway in New York, 99% of them would be horrified and trying to de-escalate.
Mostly, yeah.
But the UI of a live stream, the little heart icons floating up, the scrolling text, it gamifies human suffering. It turns a genuine threat of violence into a spectator sport.
It strips away empathy through abstraction. When you are watching through a screen, Coco ceases to be a human committing a potential crime, and Lo and Brion cease to be terrified victims.
They're just avatars.
They all become characters in a movie, and the audience demands the climax of the movie. They demanded blood for their entertainment.
And inside that apartment, the defense strategy was just pure desperation. Eventually, Lo utilized a can of bear mace.
Bear mace. Inside an apartment building.
Yeah, but Twanna is very careful to clarify the mechanics of this defense. Lo didn't open the door, step into the hallway, and use it as an offensive weapon to blind Coco in a brawl. She sprayed the bear mace into the air, creating a toxic chemical barrier to act as a deterrent, solely to protect her family and keep that door closed.
And this is the exact moment in Twanna's audio reporting where the gravity of the situation hits you like a freight train. She steps back from the chaotic details of the feud and puts the timeline together.
The timeline is what makes this so dark.
If the baby was just born recently, and this bear mace incident happened just a few weeks prior to her reporting, the math leads to a chilling, undeniable realization.
Breon was either heavily pregnant or in the immediate, agonizingly vulnerable days of postpartum recovery, trapped behind that door during a multi-hour siege.
I really need the listener to let that sink in. Imagine being in the most physically compromised, hormonally exhausted, vulnerable state imaginable. You're either carrying a child or healing from bothing one.
Yeah.
And there is a hostile attacker trying to break down your door, while thousands of people on the internet actively cheer for your physical assault.
The psychological damage of that is incalculable, and Twanna is incredibly brutally honest about her own initial reaction, which I think is vital journalism.
She doesn't hide how she felt at first.
No, she admits that when she first started watching the stream of Coco roaming around, she actually found it amusing.
Right.
She was laughing.
Right.
She watched Coco wander the streets of New York, forgetting where she parked her car, jumping out of her skin at giant city rats. It felt like a bizarre internet sitcom.
Because the medium trains us to consume it as comedy. But Twanna says the laughter completely evaporated the second her brain connected the timeline. The moment she realized the biological reality of who was cowering behind that door, the illusion of the sitcom shattered.
It's a profound moment of journalistic self-reflection. She realizes, and she forces us to realize, that the internet has turned human terror into content.
It has.
It's a parasocial nightmare where an audience feels such intense ownership over your life that they will actively cheer for the endangerment of a pregnant person just to get a dopamine hit from a chaotic stream.
And the tragedy is that the chaos didn't magically dissipate when Coco finally got tired and walked away from that door. Because in the digital coliseum, a physical siege simply mutates into a reputational siege.
Of course.
The banging on the door stopped, but the banging in the comment sections was just getting started.
Which brings us to the most insidious, unkillable rumor of this entire saga, the paternity controversy. Because Coco didn't just retreat. She dropped a massive thermonuclear accusation on her way out.
A total bombshell.
She claimed that the baby might actually be hers.
Let's contextualize how absurd this is based on Twanna's timeline. Coco dated Breon for a few weeks. Yet, despite Lo and Brion steadfastly maintaining that Lo is the biological father, which aligns with the timeline and the confirmed mechanics of the pregnancy we discussed earlier, Coco's claim acted like a match in a dry forest. It ignited the audience's skepticism all over again.
But wait, this is the part that absolutely fascinates me from a sociological standpoint. Why does this rumor
It's
survive?
the real question.
If someone makes an obviously baseless claim about a few-week relationship, usually it gets debunked and fades away. But Twanna points out a genuinely structural, architectural problem with BIGO Live that makes this rumor bulletproof.
This is perhaps the most brilliant insight in Twanna's entire report. She looks at the platform's terms of service. BIGO Live, much like TikTok, has implemented very strict, sweeping rules regarding minors following past controversies.
Okay, so what are the rules?
They do not allow children on live streams under any circumstances. If a child's face appears, the algorithm cuts the feed and potentially bans the account.
So think about the bind this puts Lo and Brion in. How do you prove a child is yours to a visual-obsessed digital mob?
You show them the baby.
Exactly. You show the facial features, you do a live reveal, you let the audience see the resemblance. But because of BIGO's rules, Lo and Brion literally cannot bring the baby onto the live stream where their entire community lives.
Twanna explicitly calls this controversy unkillable by design. We live in a deeply visual-first digital culture. On platforms dominated by video, verbal statements are an incredibly weak, almost worthless currency.
People don't read or listen, they just look.
Right. You can look into the camera and say, Lo is the father 10,000 times. But without the visual receipts, the audience's baseline reaction is disbelief. The architecture of the app dictates what can be proven as truth.
They are fighting a war with their hands tied behind their backs, blindfolded. But, have to push back a little here. What about other platforms?
What do you mean?
Why not just bypass BIGO entirely? If I were them, I would take a beautiful high-resolution family photo and plaster it all over Instagram and Twitter. Problem solved, right?
Twanna actually anticipates that exact argument, and she dismantles it beautifully. She points out that the BIGO audience is already primed for extreme skepticism. If Lo and Breon post a photo on Instagram, the critics won't accept it as proof.
They'll just move the goalposts.
Exactly. They will instantly pivot the conspiracy. They'll claim the photo is from 5 years ago. They'll claim it's a friend's baby they borrowed for a photo shoot to save face. Or, the ultimate modern dismissal, they will simply scream that the image is AI generated.
It is the definition of a no-win scenario. The architecture of the app prevents the proof, and the extreme, toxic skepticism of the parasocial audience ensures that any proof offered outside the app is immediately discredited.
It's a closed loop of paranoia.
This rumor is going to outlive them all. It is a permanent digital asterisk attached to their family, mandated by an audience that demands visual proof but refuses to believe their own eyes.
It is deeply exhausting just to analyze, let alone live through. But this is where Twanna proves her mettle as a journalist.
How so?
Well, while the entire BIGO audience, and frankly most casual observers, are completely obsessed with this salacious Jerry Springer-style paternity rumor, Twanna steps out of the circus ring. She stops looking at the fireworks and starts looking at the structural integrity of the tent.
Oh, I like that analogy.
She starts asking the boring, unglamorous, but absolutely vital questions about child welfare.
And this is where the tone of the reporting shifts dramatically from a bizarre internet phenomenon into a very heavy, deeply concerning reality about bringing a child into the world.
The stakes get very real.
They do. Twanna forces us to look past the bear mace and the shouting matches and look directly at the publicly acknowledged, documented histories of both Lo and Brion.
According to Twanna's meticulous reporting, both members of this couple have spoken publicly, on their own streams, on the record, about their severe struggles with drug abuse and alcoholism.
And there's more than just substance issues.
Yes. Furthermore, they have openly acknowledged a history of deep physical violence within their own relationship.
Twanna specifically notes that Lo has admitted to being violent in the past, and that Breon has also lashed out physically at her. And I want to be very clear here. These are not rumors generated by Coco.
No, these aren't chat room theories.
These are not conspiracy theories from a toxic chat room. These are the facts that the couple has voluntarily shared about themselves.
Which leads Twanna to deliver a wildly sobering assessment, one that cuts right through the noise of the live stream. A baby does not fix addiction. A baby does not fix domestic violence. It is a harsh truth, but a necessary one.
Anyone who has ever been a parent or even been around a newborn knows that the stress is unimaginable. The profound, bone-deep sleep deprivation, the financial pressure of diapers and formula, the constant crying. It is a pressure cooker that tests even the absolute strongest, most stable, well-funded partnerships.
So Twanna asks the critical question that the cheering mob completely ignores while they are demanding paternity tests. What will that newborn pressure cooker do to a couple with a documented history of chemical dependency and domestic physical conflict?
To really drive the gravity of this point home, Twanna brings up another BIGO live broadcaster, someone known in the community as 21.
The story of 21 is a tough one.
It is absolutely heartbreaking, but it serves as a profound mirror for Lo and Brion.
Twanna explains that this broadcaster, 21, has 5 children, one of whom tragically passed away. But 21 made an incredibly difficult, agonizing choice that goes against every parental instinct.
You let them go.
She did. She allowed her extended family to take over raising her children. And Twanna explores the why behind that decision. 21 had the profound, almost brutal self-awareness to look at her own lifestyle. The drinking, the drugs, the chaotic, unregulated, late nights broadcasting drama for the internet. And she recognized that her life was a deeply toxic, dangerous environment for a child.
I am struck by Twanna commending 21 for that honesty.
Yeah.
It takes immense strength to admit you are the danger to your own kids.
It's the ultimate sacrifice.
And Twanna holds that story up directly to Lo and Brion, essentially asking, do you possess that same level of self-awareness? Are you capable of looking at the bare mace in the hallway, the screaming ex-girlfriends, the 3 a.m. digital wars, the history of violence, and making the active choice to choose peace over content?
Twanna raises a barrage of practical, logistical questions about their immediate future. Right now, according to reporting, Lo and Brion do not even live together.
Wait, they don't live together?
No, they maintain separate residences. So logistically, how do you co-parent a newborn? Are they going to move in together? If they do, how will that impact their individual streams? Will they get married to secure the complex legal and medical protections that a child in a non-traditional family structure absolutely needs?
I keep coming back to the question of identity. Who are they going to be next year? Because you cannot be Madame Clonkadon, throwing digital daggers and inciting massive platform-wide wars at 3 in the morning, and also be up at 6 a.m., calm, regulated, washing bottles, making formula, and providing a stable, peaceful nervous system for a developing toddler to rely on.
You just can't.
Something has to give.
Mm.
The math does not work.
It is the ultimate, unavoidable collision between the hyper-individualistic, conflict-driven lifestyle of a content creator and the absolute selfless responsibility required to sustain human life.
Now, I want to pivot slightly, because to fully understand the weight and the nuance of Twanna's reporting, we really have to look at the lens through which she is viewing all of this chaos.
This is a really crucial part of the deep dive.
The most compelling narrative thread in this entire deep dive isn't Coco, or the paternity rumor, or even the algorithm. It is Twanna's honest internal wrestling match. This is where her objective journalistic observations slam headfirst into her deeply held personal worldview.
And it is absolutely vital that we look at this impartially, exploring it exactly as Twanna presents it in her audio logs. She does not hide her biases. She outlines her beliefs with absolute, unapologetic clarity.
She does. Twanna states her belief that physically and biologically a penis makes a man and a vagina makes a woman.
Right.
And she maintains this belief regardless of any surgical intervention or plastic surgery.
Right.
She explicitly states her belief that men are not born to carry babies, noting heavily that she finds absolutely no biblical precedent for it.
She goes further to clearly state her complete disagreement with the modern medical and sociological concept of gender being assigned at birth.
Okay.
Twanna argues from a deeply religious standpoint that assignment comes exclusively from God, and she believes that any human attempt to change that divine assignment fundamentally breaks Christian laws.
Those are incredibly strict, unyielding ideological lines. They are rooted in a very specific traditional interpretation of faith.
Yes, they are.
But what elevates this entire report from a simple religious critique into a profound piece of human journalism is how those strict beliefs are violently contrasted with the overwhelming empathy she felt as she watched these events unfold.
Exactly. When she saw the footage of the siege, she didn't look at Lo and Brion with disgust or judgment. The theological debate completely vanished in the face of human suffering.
She just saw people in trouble.
She looked at them with a fierce, almost primal protective instinct. She watched a woman drive across state lines to violently attack a pregnant man while a digital chat room cheered for blood. She watched a trans woman stand her ground in a hallway, armed with a can of bear mace, absolutely terrified, trying to protect her family.
And then there is the connection she makes regarding the postpartum experience. To me, this is the absolute emotional climax of Twanna's reporting.
It's a very powerful moment.
Twanna vividly remembers her own visceral experience of postpartum recovery. She recalls the intense, agonizing physical pain. She talks about how she couldn't even sit comfortably in a normal chair for weeks after giving birth because her body was so traumatized.
And she looks at the screen through all her theological disagreements and ideological boundaries, and she sees Breon
Sitting right there.
sitting in a hard chair on a live stream, enduring that exact same brutal, undeniable physical reality of postpartum recovery, but having to do it while under active, terrifying attack from a physical intruder and a digital mob.
She bypassed all the labels and connected with him on a deeply visceral, maternal, purely human level. She recognized the shared pain of bringing life into the world.
Which leads to Twanna's ultimate resolution of this intense internal tension, and I think it is one of the most powerful journalistic statements we've discussed.
What did she conclude?
She concludes her thought process by saying, I don't have to agree with someone's identity to recognize their humanity. I don't have to accept the language they use to reject the cruelty they received.
I mean, just pause and think about the weight of that statement. It is so incredibly rare to see that kind of transparent, messy, intellectual and emotional wrestling in modern discourse.
It really is. Everyone is so entrenched these days.
Usually people just retreat to their ideological corners. If they disagree with someone's identity, they assume they are also obligated to tolerate or even celebrate their suffering. But Twanna is proving that it is entirely possible, and perhaps morally necessary, to hold on to your strict ideological lines while simultaneously practicing deep, fiercely protective human empathy.
It directly challenges the listener. It asks you, are you capable of holding two seemingly opposing truths in your mind at once?
That's the real test.
Can you fundamentally disagree with the premise of how someone lives their life and still stand up and demand that they be treated with absolute safety, dignity, and compassion when they are under attack?
It is a phenomenal question. So as we pull back and look at the massive, chaotic canvas Twanna has painted for us, she leaves us with several massive, unresolved questions hanging in the air.
So many loose ends.
We still don't truly know the motivation behind the complete lack of pregnancy documentation. Was it sacredness or was it fear?
We have to wonder if the unkillable paternity rumor will ever actually be resolved, or if the architecture of the internet guarantees it will haunt this child forever.
Probably the latter, honestly.
And we have to question what kind of lasting physical and psychological trauma Breon really endured that night, trapped behind the door, reading the comments of people wishing him harm.
And most importantly, the question that looms over all of it. Will Lo and Brion be able to overcome their own documented histories of addiction and violence to build a stable, sober, violence-free home?
Will they choose peace?
Will they make the choice that 21 made, recognizing the danger of their environment, or will they try to fold a newborn into the circus?
It boils down to one ultimate overarching tension. Is this a family that is genuinely, desperately asking for privacy to raise their child in peace? Or is this a reality show asking for attention, strategically using the baby as the heavily teased plotline for the next season?
And if the digital economy dictates that it cannot be both, which one is going to win out?
It is a stark reminder of the stakes involved in the media we consume. We all scroll through digital content so effortlessly. You sit on your couch, you laugh at the crazy characters, you engage in the drama, you type a comment, and you close the app.
Without a second thought.
But we rarely stop to think about the very real, very permanent flesh and blood consequences that are playing out right behind the camera lens. Especially when an innocent child who never asked for an audience, never signed a terms of service agreement, and never wanted to be a viral moment is brought into the frame.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. In an era where literally everything, your breakfast, your trauma, your relationships, your birth is monetizable content, is the ultimate final act of parental love, simply having the strength to turn the camera off forever.
That's a profound thought.
Think about it. Can a relationship and a family that was literally forged in the fires of a live audience even survive the deafening silence if that audience goes away? Imagine holding the steering wheel to that 24/7 reality show and trying to find the immense, terrifying courage to finally just let go and pull the plug.
It's a profound question, and one we will all have to reckon with as the glass walls of our digital houses get thinner and thinner.